Hello, hi, this is Queen F. Smothers of Ari'ze Women Network. Thank you for joining me today. I have got a wonderful interview I'm going to be doing with a young man, and I discovered my guest while in a Facebook group called "You Know You're from 47th Street If dot 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 dot." And it's really a fun group. A lot of members they post different things about Chicago and particularly 47th Street and the restaurants, the different buildings that we could recall, fond memories that we have, in like looking back. We kind of said together, we said, we didn't know how good we had it back then, but we really did. It was better than, a lot of people can say how it is now. We had fun growing up, but we also had issues growing up in urban communities. So it's rare you find people who genuinely you can connect with. I learned of this young man that he actually was a family friend. Once me and him started talking, and he started asking me about my family members, and I thought that was genuine because it is rare to find people that really care about other people. Most of the time people talk about things, but this individual actually was concerned about my family members, and he's a good fit friend of the family. We recalled a lot of things growing up on the south side of Chicago. Like in Chicago, you can remember there was the Regal Theater. So, Regal Theater had a lot of stars like Red Fox, Flip Wilson, the Jackson Five. They all came to the Regal Theater on the south side of Chicago. So we never really learned about the contributions that African Americans make until we, got older. At least I didn't learn it in high school. I learned it as I got older. I started Googling or going on Facebook and seeing different buildings, markers, contributions that Black people made. So this guest, his name is Michael J Hallmon Sr. He's a realtor with Mark Realty Group, and he's a real estate agent and financing assistant. He is one of the Chicago success stories on today's show, Making It Out the Hood. So I'm going to bring Michael over,
All right.
and here we go. Hi, Michael. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm well.
Thank you
Yourself.
for joining me.
Thank you
Good.
for
I'm
having
good.
me.
Yes, I am so fortunate to have stumbled upon you. It's just so ironic how you can be in a group and then you find out that a person has been so close to your family. I remember you asking me about my sister and my
Mhm.
brother, and it's like, oh, he is a friend of the family. And then you was like, yeah, I've been to your apartment on 46 in Calumet.
Yep.
It's like, wow. And just thinking of back then, those times really bring back some fun memories. Also, they bring up some challenges that we had in growing in urban America, urban communities, particularly on the south side of Chicago.
Mhm.
So looking at your bio, one of the things that I noticed that you spoke about your mother. How was it growing up on the south side of Chicago and being raised by your mom?
It was a struggle. I mean, I think as you mentioned, we didn't know that we were struggling, but sometimes we didn't know how much we were going without because, you had a lot of love in the family. So it was a struggle for my mom as a single mom, raising three kids, two boys, and I was the youngest of three, and my
Mhm.
sister. So we
Okay.
will see her struggle. I mean, to see your mom going out in below zero temperature to stand on the bus to go to work was hard. But through it all, she always made a way. I mean, we didn't realize that we were struggling as much as she was struggling because she just
Mhm.
made ends meet. She did what she had to do.
And that happened also with my mom. I mean, we really, wow, coming from a big family of 10, it was a lot of us, of course, but she always made do.
Yeah.
We moved a lot of times, but it was always to get to a better location or whatever. But because I remember we grew up in the projects and that wasn't really pleasant.
Yeah.
And both me and you went to DuSable High School. I know you were saying that, you didn't grow up in the projects, but you had to deal with the people in the projects, and that was a little tough. So, kind of tell me about that. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
My mom, she struggled to make sure that she would not move her kids to the project. I remember her saying that I refuse to move my kids to the project. But
Hmm.
going to school at Dusabu, that's who you interacted with because most of the kids that went to Dusabu were from the project. And to
Uh-huh.
be honest, it was a struggle for me every day to fight. I mean, I fought a lot just to get back and forth to school. It was like
Really?
a 2 or 3 time a week occurrence. It was a fight because of the dynamics that were in the school system and
Hmm.
just being able to go there and try to survive.
Right. Yeah, because actually, my first, I think, 2 weeks as a freshman, I actually had a fight with a guy. He busted my nose. It was not
Oh,
pleasant. It was not pleasant. It was blood like gushing everywhere, and it was over something like the the sign-in sheet. It was something that simple, you know. But yeah, yeah, the challenges, man,
when you
it
think
was
about it,
traumatic.
yeah, but when you think about it, it was because have you heard the saying hurt people?
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you have these children that's growing up in these deprived families, they're struggling, mom on drugs, you don't know what they're dealing with in their household, and they come to school and they're angry.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
hurt people. They know that's just how it comes out.
Exactly. And I kind of, as you mentioned that, like about the moms and, uh, you don't know what the parents are going through. And I think about DMX. DMX just passed. And I remember he used to talk about the fact that his mom had left him. But a lot of times there's a story behind a story.
Exactly.
What was the reason? What happened to her? What was she going through? A lot of
Exactly.
times our parents go through things and we don't know what they went through because a lot of times the black parents didn't really there wasn't like a lot of conversation with the kid. It was like sometimes children should be seen and not heard, or it was more respectable to be quiet. But if we had learned of what our parents had went through, maybe we would be more understanding. So
Exactly.
it's really sad. Yeah, a lot of parents grew up actually was on drugs. A lot of
Exactly.
parents were alcoholics.
And with
I
that
mean,
being said, I told you I was raised by a single parent. My mom was the one that raised us, but my dad
mhm.
was around, but he was an alcoholic. All of my
Oh,
all of my
wow.
young childhood, my dad was an alcoholic. They were not living together. They were never married. So I would see
Uh-huh.
my dad on the weekends, but my dad was an alcoholic. He just wasn't in a position to give me what I needed to raise me into a man.
Exactly. Wow, we had the
Yeah,
same experiences. My
yeah.
father was a blues artist, but he also had a battle with the booze. We always
Okay.
say that. He was a gentle giant, very wonderful man, but the alcohol just brought out something different and it really hurt his career as a musician. So, yeah, and that goes back to the fact that we were talking about the movie Claudine. How,
Yeah.
if you notice the father was not present in the home because
Uh-huh.
back then when you were on welfare you couldn't have a man living with you.
Exactly.
You couldn't if he wasn't supporting the family he had to go.
Yeah.
So that strong figure out of the black family and it really hurt.
And that was
And
set up by design. That was by design, by society to make sure, because I really truly believe that in spite of what anybody says, we have always been targeted in the black community to make sure that we were always a step behind, that we were
Mhm.
always set up to fail in a sense. I mean, we had the worst school systems. They redlined us where we couldn't buy
Mhm.
in certain neighborhoods even if we had the money to. And with the situation with women being on welfare, you couldn't have a father in the house. So now you're raising a bunch of black boys that don't have a father figure to teach them how to be a man.
There you
So
go. There
when
you go.
society says, when you hear now that they say that the system is broken, in my opinion, the system is not broken. The system is working exactly how the white man or society designed it to work.
There you go. There you go. And I believe that because, not having a father figure I didn't have an example or what to expect from a man. So that hurt
Exactly.
me as a young woman, making the wrong decisions, looking for love in all the wrong places.
Exactly.
And it was all set up by design. And then remember when they dumped drugs in the community in the 70s, sort
Yep.
of, I think it was like the early 70s, people started changing. And we wonder why, the drugs were dumped into the black community. And then that hurt us on top of the father not being able to find a job. Then we had to deal with the drugs. Then the
Exactly.
parents.
And again, by design, because when President Clinton and President Bush, when they declared their quote unquote war on drugs, their war on
Mhm.
drugs was actually war on black people.
Wow.
Because you have people going to jail for 20 years for a dime bag of crack when somebody else was flying it in, some white man was flying it in by the kilos out of Miami, and they getting a slap on the wrist and they're not going to jail.
And
There was
exactly,
more,
and some of those men are still in jail, right?
yes, from the 80s. They've been doing a lot because what happened was they came up with the three strike law. So if you had a couple of already felony convictions, all you needed was one more, and then you can pretty much almost do life in prison because you got three strikes now.
Wow. And that's crazy. Now they got what marijuana dispensaries set up in every city, just
And how
about.
many people, how many of us are still in jail for selling marijuana?
Right. And not to mention how many of us own dispensaries. I'm
Exactly.
told that in Chicago there's a problem that some people are complaining that there are no black owned
Because
dispensaries.
they put it out of our reach. It's too expensive for one of us to get the license and start a business because they've set it up that way.
Mm. Economics is that's what hurt the black community,
Exactly.
and I remember a lot of people, they didn't go from 47 to 43rd Street. That was their life. They
Yeah.
didn't go outside of that because everything was in the black community. On one hand, it was good because I remember we had the Met Theater, we had the different shoe stores right in the
Yeah.
community. But then on the other hand, we didn't get the experience of going out into the world.
Exactly.
And then the people that were in the black community were making the money from our community, but the money was going back into their community. It
Exactly.
wasn't going to our kids, it was going to their kids and to their
And,
college education.
and that's exactly what's happening now. How many black businesses do you see over in Chinatown? You don't see no black businesses in Chinatown, but they're in our neighborhood setting up a nail shop. We got the Arabs
Yep.
over in our neighborhood, they setting up their grocery stores. But when we had Black Wall Street, what did they do? They burned it down because we were making because they don't want to see us be.
Mhm. I think that was it. I think that was the main thing. It wasn't like we for years we thought it was because some black guy whispered at or whistled. Well, that was Emmett Till, but
Emmett Till.
with Black Wall Street, they said that he looked at her or whatever, and then she went and told the other men. That wasn't it. It was the success of the black people
Exactly.
that they were, yeah, they were jealous of.
And I'm gonna tell you one thing, two things that America has been built on is wealth and power. And that's what they don't ever want us to have, wealth and power. When I say wealth, you can have a lot of money, you don't have wealth. But because we worked in their cotton fields for over 300 years, they're able to build wealth with real estate. Real estate is
Hmm.
wealth. When you can pass down something to your children, now you're wealthy. And they don't want, they always put us behind the eight ball and being able to build wealth.
Exactly. That's why the myth of black people being lazy is so stupid to me
Exactly.
because, oh, we weren't lazy when we were out in the cotton field picking the cotton and we were
Exactly.
making the tobacco and the cocoa and all of that and
Exactly.
twirling the land. We're the
Exactly.
greatest agriculturists. We created the fried chicken and all of that. And then our ancestors had got thrown with chitlins, the last of the meat that was no good. And that's one of the reasons why we have like the health issues that we have. All that's being
Exactly.
passed down. I believe the stress was passed down too, to be
Exactly.
honest. I think a study needs to be done on stress. The stress that the slaves that they had, was that passed down in our DNA? Is that why we have high blood pressure and things like that?
That's
So,
definitely true. But really,
wow.
if you think about it, when men go off to war and they come back with PSD, post traumatic stress syndrome, we do the same thing in the neighborhood. When I talked to in my bio, when I talked about I didn't make it out unscathed, I still have scars, seen and unseen. I'm always in fight mode. Is they say
Really?
when you encounter a threat, you either choose to fight or flight. I've always been taught to fight. I've been struggling all my life. I've been in survival mode all my life. So that's a form
Wow.
of traumatic stress that you've been
Yeah.
dealing with all your life.
And I was going to ask you about that when you said scars seen and unseen. I didn't, I was once like, well, what does he mean by that? And
Yeah.
so you're in the flight mode always.
Fight in the fight mode.
Like,
Fight all the
wow.
time.
That's part of PSTD,
Yes, exactly.
post traumatic stress. And I have that too. I actually, as much as I love Chicago, there's some traumatic things that happened to me in Chicago, that happened to my family. And sometimes I actually have nightmares. And
Exactly.
I wake up just like a person that was in the military. I wake up in a cold sweat, like, and I'll be like, okay, I'm here, I'm not there. So as much as, and maybe one day I'll go back and visit, but it's like, it's a lot of traumatic things that happen in the urban communities that is very traumatic.
Very,
And
very.
I'm happy to know that you've overcome some of those obstacles. But
Exactly.
uh what challenges did you face? Well, okay, you pretty much uh, what type of things did you do that may have gotten you caught up in the streets when you were younger? That you saw yourself kind of getting going on the
Well,
wrong track.
again, just being in the neighborhood, being raised by a single mom, I started early learning how to support myself. I
Hmm.
had a paper route. I did things to make money. And when I started getting older, of course, I started doing things, some of them that were not legal.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, one of the things I used to do, one of my older cousins, we would get transfers. We would
Hmm.
take the CTA transfers and we would go and sell
Okay.
them.
Oh,
That was
okay.
one of our little hustles.
Well, that's creative.
So I mean,
It's not legal though.
so I mean, that was just things that you just try to survive. So
Right.
there were. I mean, I just saw so many things in the neighborhood. I always liked to dress from a young
Hmm.
age. The reason I started liking to dress because in my neighborhood there were a lot of pimps and prostitutes. I saw those
Right.
pimps with the big cars and the flashy clothes. I like that. So that's one of the things I do now. I like to dress, but that's where it came from, which is unfortunate because I didn't see no black lawyers. I didn't see no black doctors. This was my role
Right.
model.
Okay. Okay. I understand. I hear you. I hear you. I remember, and then I remember people were saying that the Rosenwald, we used to have lawyers and doctors that lived in that building.
When it
But
was
when
first
I
built,
lived in that
they said
building,
the very some of the old black singers and performers used to live there. They said when it was first built, it was really nice in there.
really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. And I
yeah,
actually lived there with my twin sons when they were babies. I lived there, but it was like New Jack City when I was there. It was
exactly,
bad. It was
exactly,
bad, man.
exactly.
Yeah, those some bad times. I mean, I made it through, and I've had my bout with whatever, drugs, but I
Yeah,
had actually, when my sons were born, I promised, I said, I don't want them to see me living like this or whatever.
exactly,
And I stopped, and I
exactly.
got to whatever program I got into. But I noticed all around me, people were using. It was like The Walking Dead, just
Yeah,
like the movie.
yeah.
So, wow. How did you overcome the challenges that you overcame growing up in the urban community?
Actually, again, it was just being in survival mode. Fortunately, I was always smart. I could go to school and I could grab. I can remember being in DeSable, and I would ditch school half the time and still go back and pass the test. So
Wow, you was a
I
smarty.
was mentally smart enough to make it. It's just that the resources were not there. I didn't have nobody that guided me saying, when you finish high school, you need to be prepared for college. You need to get a
Hmm.
career and not just a job. I didn't have all those things. I can never remember a counselor at DeSable sitting down with me and making a plan for my life.
Wow. And remember, we were saying about how they used to have the machine shop and the different programs where they were
Definitely.
teaching us a skill, home
Exactly.
economics, but they cut all of that out, you know.
Exactly. And in my opinion, again, in my opinion, that was done by design because that's what built the black middle class. We didn't have to go to 4 years of college. We had auto mechanics. We had welders. We had bricklayers. We had all these laborers that built the black middle class. And then when they saw that those were the vehicles that we were using to get the black middle class, they took it away. Right here today, you don't see shops in school no more. You don't see auto mechanics no more. You don't see all those things that built the black middle class because once society figured it out, this is what's building the black middle class, they took it away.
And this is why people decide to leave the hood. You know, the hood sure had good times. It had, you know, good food, and we had the community. Everybody pretty much knew each other. But the hood also was traumatic and hurt a lot of people. And
Very.
that's why people left the hood. You know, people sometimes they say, oh, well, why did people leave the hood? Well, there was nothing left there. There was nothing for us. You
Exactly.
know, so making it out the hood, that's our, you know, the title of the show. Um, are you happy that you know, actually left the
I would
hood?
love
And
I would love to have some kind of vehicle to help our people to get out of the hood, but I still
Mhm,
go back to the city. Now I live about 45 minutes from Chicago out in Romeoville, Illinois, which is
mhm.
in the west suburbs. I still go back to the city. My dad still lives in the city up on 63rd and Langley, which is right off of College Road. So I go back to the city a
Okay.
lot. And when I'm in the city, it's like returning to that war zone. I'm not paranoid, but I'm very aware of my surroundings.
You're aware.
I
Hmm.
when I go back to the city now, I switch to a different awareness because I know
Hmm.
what kind of environment I'm in right now. So I'm glad I made it out. I would never live in the city again. That's
What
just my
about
personal
the?
opinion. I don't want to be in that environment unless I can live like in a downtown area. But
Mhm.
living where I grew up in, I would never return to that area because I know what's there now. It's still a lot of drugs there. It's still a lot of gang banging there. It's still a lot of negative things there that I don't want to deal with.
Okay, but what about, you know, the gentrification?
Yeah,
Didn't the gentrification happen like over there on 43rd and Langley and things that, you know, in that area of the Bronzeville? I heard that's really nice, you
now
know.
what's going on around there? My dad and I went to University of Chicago Hospital for a while, and my dad retired from University of Chicago Hospital. So in that area, University of Chicago has bought up a lot of their property. So I remember my grandmother used to have a clinic on 63rd Street, and I remember when Martin Luther King got killed, I had to be about 7 years old, and I remember all the burning and the gang looting up and down 63rd Street. And you would never see white people on 63rd Street back then in the 60s and 70s. And now you go over there, like you say, it's been gentrified. You got Chinese, Asians, you got white people, and it's just like a whole different environment now.
Well, you know, when they built the United Center, that was the whole point, was to get us out of the nice close location near the
Exactly.
United Center where the basketball, you know, Michael Jordan, all of that, and Oprah at Harpo Studios.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they got us out of there to get the people and closer to the jobs
Exactly.
downtown, you know, for the
Because
right people,
as you
you know.
mentioned, what happened is when they did what we call white flight. When they moved out of the city into the suburbs, sooner or
Hmm.
later it dawned on them. They said we just gave them, meaning us, the prime real estate, which was close to downtown.
Exactly.
And then when
Yeah.
they thought about it, like, okay, we need to switch this around. We need to get back to the city and move them out to the suburbs.
Hmm. So, like you were saying earlier, when they would be, you know, they used to say, "Yeah, you should pull yourself up by the bootstraps." I mean, by the shoestrings. I mean, you don't have any shoestrings
They've
like
taken it. We don't have bootstraps because you've taken it.
Martin
They
Luther
take
King
away all
said
the
that.
resources out of our neighborhood. They put us in the worst school system. They give us they don't give us anything to survive, and then they say go ahead and survive. After you take away
Exactly.
everything, what do you need to survive?
And we can name each decade where something traumatic happened. the 60s, okay, there was an uproar, and then there was the civil rights movement. Then in the 70s, then the drugs were put in. Then the 80s, no jobs. I remember all the jobs got outsourced. I
Hmm.
remember I used to have temp jobs, and I can go from one temp job to another. It was always one available.
Yeah,
I worked temping for like 2 or 3 years. One job ended 6 months. I'm at another job. But now, what's there for the kids now, for the young people?
exactly.
I mean, it's not. Is there? The jobs have been outsourced.
Yeah.
So
And
the
like you said, with the temp
challenges.
jobs, I bounced around to a lot of temp jobs as well. And when you have those temp jobs, you don't have medical benefits.
Hmm.
So
Right.
now
No
there was another
medical
way.
benefit.
There was another way of them getting around the system to
Hmm.
do what they wanted to do.
Right. The wealthy keeping holding on to their money, not paying
Exactly.
the taxes, shipping the money out to the what they call those overseas accounts,
Exactly.
you know.
Like I said,
So
power and wealth. Power and wealth,
mhm.
they're never going to give those to us. Not without a fight.
Exactly, exactly. There's always a losing battle. It seems like we're on the losing end, but you know what? I have faith that things are gonna get better, and we gotta just teach the young people. You're gonna have to fight. You gotta fight your way. Try to go to college. Get your education. The challenges. Um, Now let's talk about how did you come about going into real estate? How did that happen?
Because I happened to be blessed enough to buy my first house. And I bought my
Wow.
house. I bought my house a couple of years ago in 2017. And actually, it was a friend of mine who was my real estate agent. And
Okay.
I mean, through what we went through for me to purchase my house, I was like, this is definitely something I can do. For a long time, I always had a full-time job and I always worked part-time jobs. So I'm like,
Okay.
if I was to get my real estate license, I can have this second job or either make this a full career if it takes
Hmm.
off right. So I
Okay.
made up my mind what I wanted to do. And it took a lot of studying because the test is very hard. And I would come home every day from work and I would sit down and I would study for hours. And I was able to go and pass the test the first time. And they say a lot of people don't, it's very rare that you pass that test the first time.
You just a smart cookie, as they used to say. I mean,
I
anytime
tried.
you cut class and still pass.
Yeah, I mean, it was a journey, and now I'm still building my business. But I know if I put in the work, then it's definitely going to pop.
Wonderful. And that's a blessing, that you made it, you faced your challenges and you overcame obstacles and you still made something out of yourself. And one reason why I wanted to feature you, because I know people are wondering, okay, I Rise Women Network. I want to bring in the men now. Now I want to also focus on the men and just let people know that you are able okay, I think I'm being lost. I don't know. Okay, I'm back again. You're able to overcome obstacles. Sure, we face a lot of challenges. I face a lot of challenges being a young black girl growing on the south side of Chicago. You face a lot of challenges. You got to fight through it and still, contribute what you can to society. And right
Exactly.
now, it seems like society is focused on negativity, the people that are that are past. I'm sorry to hear that, but let's focus on the people that are here. Let's focus on
Exactly.
the black men and the black women that are here that are making positive moves in life. You know,
Exactly.
and I want to kind of go back to your brother because I know that you lost your brother, and just to kind of focus on that to bring him a little memory in him of him. What do you remember about your brother and what happened?
My brother was the oldest, so when my mom worked, my brother took care of me and my sister. He was the one that was always there, keeping us out of trouble and just trying to keep the family dynamic together. It was in December of 1983, and
Okay.
we had this little spot, this little place we used to hang out in, and we called it the Bucket of Blood. It was right on 49th and Hagen. It was a little lounge area, And the reason we
Oh,
call it the bucket of blood is because so many people got killed in it.
oh my God.
So this night I pulled up and all the police were out there. My girlfriend was standing out there and he said, "That's your brother." I got out of the car, ran to the door. He had gotten shot. And he had made it from the counter to the door and he had passed out by the door. I was able to push my way through the crowd, get to him, and he was still alive. And what
Wow.
happened is because it was a small caliber bullet, he basically drowned in his own blood. He bled internally and he didn't make it.
Oh my God.
It was
How
very
old was
traumatizing. But that's another thing I think about now. Even with that, we didn't even allow ourselves to grieve. I was still in survival mode. After that, it's still like, what you gonna do? You gonna sit here and have a pity party? You still gotta survive. So you don't even
that's right.
allow being in the environment that I grew up in. You don't even allow yourself to grieve properly.
And see, that's kind of not good because
It's
at
not
some point it's got to come up.
exactly,
Whatever is going on the inside is going to come up. And sometimes people turn it in on themselves, and that's why people turn to booze and the drugs and things
exactly,
like that.
exactly,
So, I'm glad that you didn't turn it at, but I hope that, one stigma that's in the black community is that black men don't seek therapy. So I hope that whatever you need to
exactly.
do it, because don't be ashamed of it. It's something you
That's
have to talk.
exactly. And again, that's the thing that in the black community we don't seek therapy. That's for white people out there. But you have to at some point you have to address the demons because we
Hmm.
go through a lot of trauma, a lot of different things that we deal with. And if you don't deal with it at some point, face it head on, it's going to continue to eat at you. I just remember saying to myself, I mean, my way of surviving was giving up is not an option. I mean, what that was my option to
Hmm.
continue to do better because I kept telling myself I can't give up, I can't stop. If I do, I'm going to be another casualty.
There you go. There you go. That's so true. That's where it comes in that survival mode. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
you gotta, we had to survive. All of us, we've been through a lot, growing
Yeah,
up in urban communities. That's why the kids nowadays, we're not taking no excuses from y'all. Okay. If we can survive and we can overcome, you can too.
exactly.
The drugs, whatever it is, a single parenting, coming from a single parent home, whatever, losing a loved one. I've lost loved ones. Um, Unfortunately, none of my loved ones that I lost, I didn't lose them to the streets. It's like they either died from, like cancer or something like that. But a loss is a loss,
Exactly.
and both of us, we both lost our mother. I saw that you was, celebrating your mother's birthday. Happily
Yes.
birthday
Yes.
and bless her, and my mom passed also, so Mother's Day is coming up. So, we have that it's a loss that
Yeah.
you never get used to. So,
Because
anyone that's out there, please appreciate your mom while
yeah,
she's here.
exactly. Because growing up, you never even think about that. One day my mom is not going to be here. You don't want to think that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because she's that support system,
Exactly.
like my mom, she was our support system. She could actually tell us all of our friends that were no good. My mom was
My,
kind of psychic, it's like
yeah.
she was like,
My
"No,
mom was
that
like
person
that.
is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that person is bad." And it's like, "Oh, mom." Then
They
year
could see
later,
it.
we have to go back and say you was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I miss that.
Exactly.
But yeah, man. But that's so sad about your brother, and rest his soul, rest his spirit.
Exactly.
Man, and that was traumatic for you, to be right there. And like you said, it's something that you carry with you, but you went on with your life. So,
Exactly.
man, I
And
admire you
actually,
for that.
like I say, he was like the father figure that I didn't have in my father, because my father was around, but my father was an alcoholic. So my brother was kind of like the man of the house because my mom always had to work. So now, me being the youngest of three, now I don't
Uh-huh.
even have that support system. So now I'm just out here in the streets trying to make my way because mom can't protect me when I'm out in the streets. You got to learn how to
Mhm.
navigate. You got to learn how to fight. You got to learn who's good for you and who's not good for you. And again, you're in that survival mode all your life.
Just
You're in that
all the
survival
time,
mode.
all the time, and that's one way that we've made it out the hood is that with that survival,
Yeah,
that fight or flight.
exactly.
Sometimes it turns in against us, because sometimes I'm in that fight or flight mood and I don't need to be in there. Like sometimes I'll go out and I'll think, because a lot of times the news media and the repeated news will make you think everybody's out to get you,
Yeah,
and that's a problem. But
it
when
is.
I go out, sometimes I don't see that. People
Hmm.
will speak. How you doing?
Exactly.
And I'd be like, then I have to snap out of it. How you doing? So it's like everybody's not out to get us.
And again, that goes back to the traumatic stress that we deal with growing up in the hood. You
Mhm.
just see the world differently. You see the
Yes,
world differently.
we see the world differently,
Yeah,
and it's probably a protective mechanism
it
too.
is. Yeah,
It really protects us. And
yeah.
man, now I wanted to touch bases. Well, first of all, you mentioned that you don't have that support system no more, like with your mom or your brother, but you got married recently.
Yes, I
And
did.
the significant other plays a very important role in our lives. So,
Definitely.
and that I admire that you took that stand to,
Exactly.
make someone, part
And
of your life.
actually, meeting her, we grew up in the same neighborhood and we never met. She grew up at 51st
Really?
and Cottage. She grew up at 51st and Cottage Grove. I lived at 49th and Calumet. We knew some of the same people. Remember Ariston under the L on 47?
Yeah. Oh,
She used to
yeah.
work.
That was our
She,
store.
she used to work there as a young girl, and I never met her. And me and her met working at DeBry. We was working at
Really? I
DeBry in
probably
Oakwood.
remember her.
Yeah. So when we
Cause
met, we were working at DeBry together, and we started talking. And we come to find out, we knew a lot of the same people. We had just never met.
Oh,
So it was
wow. Yeah,
like,
because I remember Arison.
yeah,
Arison was one of those. Arison was, for anyone that don't know, was under 47 in Calumet under the L. And
exactly.
they changed their name a couple of times, but they were owned by some Greeks and they were really nice guys.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I was saying, everybody wasn't just, bad people. They
right.
actually were nice, genuine guys. And I
Yeah,
remember my mother, we were on a fixed income and they had let her set up a tab where she could come and get food, when we were short or whatever. So,
exactly.
man, that was a really one of the good memories of
Yeah,
47th Street.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So marrying
Wow.
my wife was definitely a godsend. I mean, like I said, it was like just life going full circle to meet somebody that could relate to me and growing up in the same neighborhood, and
Yeah,
again, just meeting years later by coincidence.
that's a blessing. It's a
Yeah,
blessing to have that, that spouse to have your back,
yeah,
and to someone you can talk to and get that support
yeah,
from.
definitely.
Um, Also, you're an ordained minister, or you
Yes,
were, or
I
are?
got ordained in 2000.
Okay.
We used to. I went to my ministry was actually, if you ever remember the Surf Lounge on 69th in Houston.
Yeah, yeah. I
My
used to go
pastor
there.
turned that into a church. That's what we was going. We were actually
Wait a
literally
minute. What was
under
the
the church.
name of it?
The name of the lounge.
Uh huh.
It was called the Surf Lounge on 69th and
I
Houston.
remember that place. Oh, he turned into a church. That is a
Yes.
blessing. That's what
So
I'm saying.
I got connected with the ministry because she had what they call a warming center. She would let the guys come in there at night and spend the night and give them coffee and donuts in the morning. So she was really
Okay.
big into helping the community, and that's what I could relate to. I wanted to do something to kind of give back. She ended up turning it from a men's warming center into a full-blown women and children shelter. And all of
Wow.
us would volunteer, all the church members would volunteer to work at the shelter all the time just to help out and just give back to the community. Every Thanksgiving, she would feed them. I mean, it was just kind of a lot of things that she would do in the community to give back, and that was something that was close to me, close to my heart, something I wanted to do.
That's a blessing. That is
Yeah,
wonderful. You need that,
yeah,
and it's wonderful to meet somebody that you can share and connect with.
exactly.
And I know one of your friends that you connected with is Leo Sullivan, and he's a filmmaker. So
Yeah.
kind of expound on that a little bit.
Me and
Miss
Leo grew up together.
Leon.
He's in Atlanta now, and we grew up together. And he was pretty much more of a brother like than my real brother was because me and him was the same age. So he literally lived with us, and we grew up
Okay.
together. And his mom moved to Florida back in like '85. He moved to Florida, and now he is writing books and he's doing movies.
And he's
He's
in
doing
Atlanta.
some, yeah, he's in Atlanta. He's doing some Amazon movies and he's doing some books. Now he'll tell you his story, so I can mention some of his story because he's very open about his story. He actually spent 17 years in the federal penitentiary. When we
Wow.
were, when we were growing up, we used to read Donald Goines books, Iceberg
Uh,
Slim books.
Donald
We,
Gomes.
yes, so me and him used
Who
to read
hasn't
those
read
books.
Donald Gomes?
Yes, so he was in while he was in prison, he started writing, and a couple of publishing companies took his ideas and didn't pay him. So
Wow.
when he got out, he said he was in a homeless shelter for well, he was in like a prison release homeless
Mhm.
shelter type thing when he got out. And again, he had that same tenacity that I had that just survive. I'm going to survive. I'm not going to give up. So he not only started writing his own books again, he started his own publishing company. So he started signing other
Wow.
authors.
That's a
So
blessing. What's his publishing company name?
Leo Sullivan Publishing
Okay.
Company, and
As
a lot of his books is on Amazon.
as a matter of fact, I saw his movie, Life Without Hope, and I'm gonna let the audience know it's a very good movie. It's on you can find it on
Yeah,
Roku channel. And I actually, I cried at the end. So I'm looking for that part too. But yeah, well that's a blessing because we need more filmmakers to tell our story.
exactly,
And like you said, part of your life you can see it in that in his one of his movies, and just we just need more of that,
exactly,
we need the truth. We don't need the fabrication and somebody else telling our stories in their third voice, which is
exactly,
inaccurate or watered
exactly.
down.
Yeah.
We need that. So, wow. Wow. Okay. Well, in closing, I'm going to just ask you what words of encouragement would you like to give to our viewers or to any young person that's going through in the urban community that they're faced with now? What words of encouragement would you
Well,
leave
you
with them?
know, they always say you can make it, you can do anything you want in life. I just would encourage anybody to know that nothing is going to be handed to you. I mean, what? And now I'm not by any means rich or I'm not wealthy. I just feel like I'm somebody that made my life work for me, and I just made a difference in my life, getting out of the hood and making my life better. But it was not easy. I had to wake up every day and work this thing out on purpose. I had to make sure that I was doing the things that I needed to do in order to benefit me as a man, as a black man, and I had a family. I have two daughters, two sons. I had people that I had that were depending on me to be a better person. And I didn't start off the best father by any
Mm,
means, but I matured to a level through life. Life matures you, and when you start to
yeah.
look at your daughters and say, "I need to be a better example for my daughter. I need to be a better example for my son," you start making those steps in your life to make sure that they have somebody that they can look up to and be proud of. So
Mm,
I went back to school. I mean, I worked at jobs, and I remember times where I didn't stay on the job. I had to make up my mind. This right here is no game. If just
mhm.
because it's something you don't like on the job, you got to work your way through that thing until you can find something better. So it takes a lot of work. You have to be. You have to make sure that you are determined to make it and not let anything stop you.
Mhm. I believe that. And by the way, Michael is with CarMax Realty Group, CarMark Realty Group,
Yes,
and he has a website which is LinkedIn. It's called Linktree .com, MJ Hallman. And you can just, let's see, I'm going to bring it on so you can see it down at the lower bar. So definitely check him out if you want a home. He's got some beautiful homes. I actually took a look at your website, and one day maybe I'll be able to afford one of those homes.
thank you.
Yeah, but it's just a pleasure. You are a pleasant individual. It's not like fabricated or made up. You genuinely have a genuine concern about people. And I just want to thank you for coming and joining me on Rise Women Network, Chicago Success Stories. Michael J Hallmon Sr. Look for him. Look for his website. Buy you a home. It's just a pleasure, Michael. Thank you so much for this heartfelt interview. And we're going to do something called the Chicago Success Stories. Is going to be a docu-series, so you're going to be part of it. And I hope that you can be part of being a producer one day. So
Thank you so
thank
much. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I'm just always willing to share what I went through in hopes that it'll help somebody else. That's what we always have to do. We have to always be willing to give back.
Yes, yes. And so true. We made it and it's time to give back. And that's kind of direction I'm going into. So thank you,
Exactly.
Michael, for joining me and you be blessed. And thank you, viewers. And remember to click on the Rise Women Network .com. We're on YouTube and we also have our own website. So thank you. And make sure you check out Michael's website. Thank you. And you be blessed. Thanks,
Thank you. You as
Michael.
well. Okay.
Okay,
Take
bye
care.
bye. All right. Yes.